Hi, my name is Putri Isabella from SMP Citahati Christian School Surabaya, and today I'll be presenting my research. The title is The Effects of Pandemic to the Severity of Depression in Teenagers. Now let's start with introduction. Human beings were never designed for the poorly nourished, sedentary, indoor, sleep-deprived, socially isolated, frenzied pace of the 21st century. When a human doesn't socialize for days on end, they will abbreviate their life expectancy, diminish their self-regard. It increases the chances of stress, discouragement, uneasiness, and dementia. It moreover diminishes our sense that life has meaning and reason. When a human feels forlorn, it can hurt our well-being as much as smoking or obesity. Why is this research important? It is vital to explore this, since youngsters are the successors, and on the off chance that they're having inconveniences with their mental well-being and they don't get offered assistance, it'll be a mess. On the off chance that they are in a state of extreme discouragement and they're all considering to end their life, there are factors that are going to be affected, such as the economy. It is going to drop gradually. Now, let's move on to theories. The first one is behaviorist theory. Behaviorism emphasizes the significance of the environment in forming behavior. The center is on perceptible behavior and the conditions through which individuals learn behavior, specifically classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and social learning theory. Therefore, discouragement is the result of a person's interaction with their environment. For this illustration, classical conditioning proposes misery is learned through partners certain boosts with negative enthusiastic states. Behavior is learned through perception, impersonation, and reinforcement. Second theory is Freud's psychoanalytic theory. Amid the 1600s, psychodynamic theory ruled brain research and psychiatry. Depression was caught on in terms of 1. Deep-down coordinated outrage, 2. Interjection of a door-question misfortune, 3. Serious super-ego request, 4. Over-the-top narcissistic, variable, and or anti-personality needs, 5. Misfortune of self-esteem, 6. Hardship in mother and child relationship amid the primary year. Freud's psychoanalytic theory is a case of psychodynamic approach. Freud proposed that numerous cases of discouragement were due to natural variables. What happens is that the person distinguishes with the misplaced individual, so that the quelled outrage toward the misplaced individual is coordinated inwards toward the self. The internal coordinated outrage decreases the individual's self-esteem and makes him or her helpless to encountering sadness within the future. Freud recognized between genuine misfortunes, example, passing of loved ones, and typical misfortunes, example, is losing a job. Both sorts of misfortunes can create misery by causing the person to experience childhood scenes when they experience misfortune of love from a few noteworthy individuals, example parents. Third theory is humanist approach. Humanists accept that there are needs that are interesting to the human species, according to Maslow 1962. The foremost vital of this is the require for self-actualization, accomplishing our potential. The self-actualizing human being incorporates an important life. Anything that squares are indifferent to satisfy this requirement can be a cause of depression. Example, guardians forcing conditions of worth on their children. In expression, instead of tolerating the child for who he or she is and giving unrestricted adore, guardians may cherish conditional on great behavior. Example given, a child may be faulted or not doing well at school, create a negative self-image, and feel discouraged since a disappointment to live up to parentally forced standards. Second example, some children may look for a way to maintain strategic distance from this by denying their genuine self and anticipating a picture of the kind of individual they need to be. This facade or untrue self is an exertion if you don't mind others. Be that as it may, part of the genuine self from the individual you're imagining to be causing scorn of the self. The individual at that point continues to loathe themselves for living a lie. Now let's move on to research questions and methods. The research question is, how did the decreased intensity of adolescents' activities during quarantine affect the severity of depression in teenagers? Then I have to collect some data. So I began collecting information by pursuing a few data about depression in common on Google. At that point, I began pursuing to search information about depression in teenagers through the Very Well Mind website. After that, I began inquiring about questions that were utilized by therapists to discover how gravely somebody suffers from depression. The bunch of the question was called the Depression Inventory. I shared those questions through Google Form in a form of survey and conveyed them to my companions I knew. From there, I examined the information factually and after that did the research. I decided to show this information with descriptions and diagrams. Now let's move on to results and analysis. There are physical symptoms of depression such as headaches, eye problems or decreased visions, chest pain, stomach pain, fatigue or low energy, dizziness or lightheaded, aching muscles, back pain, digestive problems, or decreased pain tolerance. So there are hidden sides of depression too. 1. Spending all day in bed. 2. Faking a smile. 3. Overeating or not eating at all. 4. Cracking jokes or being the class clown. 5. Being emotionally distant. 6. Skipping work to sleep. 7. Not showering for days at a time. And 8. Social isolation. So I did this research based on 73 responders and the results are So then I asked how support they feel by people around them like their parents, family, and friends. Some of them answered that they are very happy and feel very supported. Some answered that they feel like they are dragging their parents down because they ask for too much things. Some answered that they don't feel supported and the presence of another family member even worsen it. There are people that answered that their parents support them less compared before the quarantine, and others answer that their family hurts their feeling more and they prefer to be with their friends. There are a few people that are very lonely with various reasons. For example, their parents are busy and don't have time to spare, and their friends won't talk to them. Some answered sometimes or not often. Some said that they would rather be lonely than to be in the presence of false friends. Some answered that they don't feel lonely because they felt numb, and others answered that they don't feel lonely because they have a sibling that would constantly annoy them. Then I asked how much close friends do they think they have. They think that it's between 1 to 10 close friends. They have a lot of friends, but only a small group of them that they consider as close friends, or that they trust with their stories and secrets. In conclusion, depression is a plague that could one day infect us, especially teenagers that are going to be adults one day. Adolescents are still emotionally unstable. They are still experiencing changes in an emotion to reach maturity in special conditions such as COVID-19. The application of lockdown limits the movement, especially in social relations and social arrangements, in family, school environment, and society. It has a great influence in adolescents' mental health. Among others, staying at home continues to result in school boredom, not physically meeting friends at school, social restrictions to go out to malls, or just generally having fun. This quarantine will change people whether in a good way or a bad way. Either it improves relationships or worsens relationships, it will have effects on us. For those that have proper support will be the same or improve, and those who lack support will worsen over time. From this research, we know that some of the teenagers have been affected and others don't. The ones that are affected will need proper help from psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, or their family and friends to bring them out of the darkness. I would like to say thank you for listening to my presentation. Goodbye and God bless you.